Therefore, in this particular period, we must come back to this idea of righteousness, as it is found in the Bible, and was very well established as a term with particular and definite meanings. Righteousness is therefore the condition of being right. It is always the fact that the individual, under all conditions, chooses to be right in every possible way. Now, there are problems that arise. 9 people out of 10 will tell you they do not know what is right, that they are drifting along on guesses and assumptions and speculations and reading the latest works on the subject by unqualified authors. The question remains is, what is right? Well, I think Lord Bacon gave us a valuable key to this. He said, if you want to know really what is right, see what happens as a result of what you do. If you are in trouble and you look back and you find that you have acted in an unfriendly manner, if you have tried to deceive someone or exploit someone or make unreasonable profits or try to force your own opinions upon others, these are the causes of personal unpleasantness and unhappiness. So if you are right, you are going to have what is probably the most important of all rewards. The reward of right is security. Security in a cheerful, conscious, intelligent, reasonable way. The right to enjoy life rather than to destroy it at its roots. The right to grow, the right to be happy, to establish proper homes, to live in peace, to have the necessities of life. All of these are right, and they are attainable. If public mind and public thinking can ever recognize that right is keeping faith with realities and not the accumulation of worldly goods at mutual expense. So we have now we are trying to find out a little more about the word righteous. Now, in religion we have another problem. We have, for the most part, taken it for granted that salvation was due to the faith in which you are born, or the creed or cult you accept by voluntary acceptance of belief. In other words, salvation is the result of membership. Salvation is the result of building between you and your own conduct a kind of upholstery by means of which you are saved in spite of yourself. You are saved by what Voltaire called a handful of water on the occiput. If you are immersed, submerged, or sprinkled, you are in religion. Now, the original use of the word baptism was very simple. It was washing. It was being clean. And it is still so in many religious groups. And baptism is meaning a cleansing, a change of self, a complete revision of their own code of life, the dedication to righteousness, a dedication to doing those things which are of the common good to all, a determination to hurt no one, a determination to put common good above self-interest, and most of all, an immediate recognition of the importance of forgiving completely and with open heart those who have despitefully used us. Without the works, the words are useless. So all around the world today, religion is gaining ground. Nearly every nation is becoming involved, and half of this religiously involved world is at war with itself. In the name of religion, people are torturing and tormenting themselves, destroying each other, and trying desperately to exploit each other under the name of religion, to build palaces for themselves instead of a happy world for deity. Thus we find that something is wrong in righteousness, and the righteousness seems to tell us the answer, that when we claim a religion, it will do us no good unless we live it. if it does not stimulate an improvement of self and an improvement of the inner life of the individual. The right hand gives us length of life and the power to live, but the left hand gives us only honors and riches, which are of this world only, and are very treacherous things. So in ancient times, all good deeds were performed with the right hand. We shake hands with the right hand. We perform most of the common purposes of life with the right hand, because most people are right-handed. Then now we find the necessary step is not just to be right-handed, but right-hearted, to understand that there are many labors that have to be performed correctly only by the hand of righteousness, the hand that is set forth for friendship. And while we are thinking about it, we must remember that we cannot afford to shake a man's right hand with ours and have our hands behind our back holding a gun. This type of thing is giving us a lot of trouble. And every day the world is coming closer to something. It is coming closer to the realization that in the great emergency there is nothing that will solve it for us but the internal experience of the divine will and the hope of perfection through keeping the words, works, and labors of divinity. We can do it. Now some will say, how can we do it? We can do it first of all within the range of the available. And here we can take a very useful little lesson from Buddhism. And that is that it is possible to take the first step. We must take it alone. It cannot be done because society has built a marvelous defense so that if we fall on our faces in the first step, society is going to pick us up. The first step of human development toward realities must be taken by the person with only one hope in his heart, and that is hope itself. The hope that to do it right will result in good. This hope seems to be pretty well justified. We have martyred nearly all the people who were really very right. But long after they're gone, they are the heroes of humanity. They are the saints and gods and sages that we honor most in life, are the ones we had no time for while they were alive, because we didn't understand then the need for them. We didn't realize that these examples of integrity were the most valuable things that we had in our traditional story of life. So we start out to try to find the way to a personal integration in a confused and problemed planet. Actually, it is not a terrible thing. Everything that is right is finally highly rewarded by its own realities. Reality never punishes. Reality can only stand and wait until it is deserved. So we have no need to fear that if we improve, we're going to be desolated by improvement. We will not be desolated unless the attachments and values we hold in life are so false in themselves that we consider the loss of them to be the supreme tragedy. If the things that we are doing wrong and the attitudes that we are holding that are not reasonable are so delightful to us that we refuse to give them up, then we will have to do what the ancients showed in their art. They showed us disappearing, holding these things in hand and vanishing with them. Today we have a much better concept of some of these values, and right at this time it is very important, I think, for us to recognize the challenge of Easter, the challenge of the resurrection of right, the coming forth of right out of the darkness of death, the coming forth of eternal life from the Holy Sepulchre. The Holy Sepulchre is the world. It is the earth and all that it inhabits. It is our own bodies, our own hearts, our own minds, our own communities, our own home. Every one of these structures, now tottering, now actually graves rather than palaces. All of these structures are waiting patiently for justification so that they can rise victoriously over selfishness, superstition, and crime. And we can start in a little simple way in our own lives. We all have problems every day, and in these problems we must seek after righteousness. We must also take this basic attitude to try to understand what the universe wants us to do when we are faced with a very important decision. How can we do it for the good of that which is right? How can we make the problem of living part of a program for the releasing of the human soul from bondage to ignorance, superstition, and fear? We can start by reevaluating some of our own problems, looking around to see a society in which the world is moving toward a universal brotherhood, rather than building barrier after barrier to prevent mankind's natural growth and happiness. Those who do not have enough are unhappy. Those who have too much are unhappy. And those who have what they need only are very ambitious to improve the situation. So when our whole civilization as we know it has been built gradually around the idea of the infinite significance of luxury, of actual competitive structure, and scientists who should know better, economists who certainly do know better, and politicians whose knowledge is very dubious, all these people are involved in this. There are very few people that cannot face certain facts with a major amount of thoughtfulness. We know that if we go on at the present time, we're going to exhaust all the resources of nature, and we are hoping that by that time we will devise some new source of resources until finally we go on to inevitable oblivion. Actually, our materialistic science, our world, regardless of its fact that two-thirds of it is religion-oriented, the world basically is atheistic. Atheism in the sense that it ignores principles while claiming to believe them, that affirms the reality of God and pays no attention to the Ten Commandments. This type of thinking must be considered lack of righteousness. Now, I know, and we work a lot with people in their problems, and the lack of righteousness is a basis of sickness. If the individual eats the wrong food long enough, he's going to destroy his health. If he decides to go into narcotics, he's going to destroy his health quicker. If he is deciding to go on in the way he has been thinking from childhood to now, and depending entirely upon authority outside of himself for instruction, he will go right on getting into the same troubles that he's now in, and probably worse ones. Actually, the individual has to do a little thinking about all this. He has to do what every scientist ought to do, and that is have proof that his mistakes are helpful, and this he can't do. He can never prove that being wrong is right.